Why is she, the maid, so important to them? Jonathan Carver stood frozen at the nursery door, his immaculate suit suddenly feeling like a cage. His twin infants were curled up beside the woman in the simple navy uniform. Sophia, the maid, had one hand gently resting on a tiny chest, protective and steady. All three were fast asleep, the room wrapped in a rare stillness. For the first time in weeks, the silence wasn't born of exhaustion but of calm. Just 2 weeks ago, calm was unthinkable. After his wife's death during childbirth, Jonathan, a tech titan accustomed to mastering every variable, found himself sinking in despair. He'd hired a parade of credentialed nannies, sleep experts, and feeding specialists, but none stayed longer than a few days. The twins wailed through the nights, their cries piercing as if mourning a loss too vast for their tiny hearts. Jonathan kept his distance, hiding in boardrooms and balance sheets, pretending the echoes of their grief didn't haunt the empty mansion. Then Sophia came. She wasn't polished, lacked formal education, and had no glowing referrals from high-end agencies. A last-minute hire, she slipped into the household almost unnoticed. Her hands were calloused, her English gentle but imperfect. Jonathan expected little, just someone to tide things over until the next professional arrived. But that first night with Sophia, the house changed. The twins slept. No screams, no restless tossing, only soft breaths and the faint melody of a Spanish lullaby. Jonathan couldn't believe it. The next night, it happened again. By the third, curiosity pulled him to the nursery. He peered through a crack in the door and saw her cradling the babies, sharing quiet stories of her childhood in El Salvador, carrying her younger brother along dusty paths, soothing him with songs when their mother worked late at the factory. She spoke of her own son, lost pneumonia at 6 months, her voice breaking but her hands never faltering, always comforting. Now, here she was, asleep beside his children, as if she were their mother. Jonathan stepped forward, ready to reprimand her for overstepping. Maids don't sleep in the nursery, let alone in the bed. But then he saw his son's tiny fingers clutching Sophia's sleeve, his daughter's cheek nestled against her chest, dried tears on her skin. His anger dissolved. He slipped out, closing the door softly, his heart racing with an unfamiliar ache. The next morning he confronted her. "Why do you care so much?" he asked. Sophia didn't hesitate. "Because their cries sound like mine once did," she said quietly. "I couldn't save my baby, but maybe I can help save yours." Jonathan was speechless, struck by a truth he'd avoided. He'd ignored his children's pain because it mirrored his own. He'd seen Sophia as just a worker when she was pouring fragments of her shattered heart into mending theirs. Days passed. The twins began to smile, reaching for Sophia first. Jonathan found himself lingering by the nursery, drawn to the lullabies and the warmth that had crept back into the house. Then, one morning, everything shifted. Sophia was gone. Her room was bare, a note on the kitchen counter reading, "I only meant to stay until they could sleep without crying. They can now. Thank you for letting me be their comfort." Panic burned through Jonathan. He tore out of the house, calling every contact, asking the staff if anyone had seen her. Hours later, he found her at a bus stop, alone with his small suitcase, staring down the road as if ready to vanish. "You don't get to leave like this," he said, voice trembling. Sophia turned, startled. "You think I hired you just to help them sleep?" he continued, breathless. "You helped me breathe again. You showed me how to be a father." She opened her mouth, but he pressed on. "I don't want a maid or a nanny. I want you as their godmother, as part of our family." Tears filled her eyes. "But I'm just," she whispered. He stepped closer. "You're the reason my children's hearts are alive. You're not just anything. You're everything they needed. Everything I needed." Sophia trembled as he hugged her, holding her tightly, as if afraid she'd slip away. From that day, she never returned to the servants' quarters. She had a room beside the nursery. On weekends, she filled the kitchen with the scents of pupusas and tamales, the twins clapping with joy. Jonathan joined them, no longer the distant figure behind office doors, but a father who understood that healing wasn't about filling a void, but cherishing what remained with love. Sometimes it's not the one with the highest paycheck or the most impressive resume who changes everything. Sometimes it's the one with a wounded past and the biggest heart, the one you almost overlooked, who makes all the difference. Before we close this story, let us know in the comments where in the world you're watching from. If this story moved you, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and share your thoughts below.